Back to the Springs Radio Real Estate Show. I'm Cheryl Garlock with Colorado Front Range Properties, and my special guest today is Andy Shin with AY Realty. Andy, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad. You know, I was just talking to everyone about reverse mortgages, and I said also one of the ways to protect ourselves from running out of money is having investment properties. And of course, this is your area of expertise because you manage these properties for a lot of people.
You bet.
And I know that it's nerve-wracking. I know as a landlord, you know, when you own a property there, you want to make sure that your tenants take care of it.
Sure, that's part of protecting that investment.
Yeah, that is part of protecting that investment. And I do know I have my own little share of horror stories, you know, and people will go, oh gosh, I just don't want to do that. But you know, the truth is you just need to learn how to work through those horror stories. And I really think that it's better if people hire that third party, that property manager, to go ahead and do most of that work for them in as much as is possible there, because you are a buffer, you know, between the owner, you know, and the actual tenant. That's huge.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge, and there's a lot of things to know about property management that your typical owner won't know, but a professional will know.
No, and you know, anyway, so let's just go on with this here too. I want to ask you a question because I know how I am. I want to access my rental properties from time to time to check them out. And especially the more expensive ones. I definitely want to check those out there because they cost more to maintain.
Sure.
You know, talk to us a little bit about how often people can do that kind of thing. I should say the owners do that.
Sure. In Colorado, you can inspect your property fairly liberally now, so legally there's not really going to be too much that gets in your way. What you're really going to want to do, though, is say, what's the reasonable period of time to access the interior of the home?
Mm-hmm.
Exterior, you should go by all the time, because that's going to give you an opportunity to look at the lawn. It's also going to give you an opportunity to look for red flags. Are there several cars parked out front? I wonder what's going on here, that sort of thing. So exterior, you know, be by that house all the time. But when it comes to interior, you get a renter there that you want to keep happy, and you don't want to come across as intrusive. If you're in every month, that person's probably not going to renew their lease, and that's going to cost you financially. So there's a balance. But certainly a couple times a year at least, you ought to be inside the house. And you know, part of this you can it's not just a matter of going and double checking on them. It's a matter of saying, hey, I want to meet you, make sure everything's working right. Is there anything maintenance wise that we need to do to keep the house up? So you make it sort of a partnership meeting with the renter to really go over the house with them, and that usually goes across really well.
Well, that's good, but you brought up a really good point there, because it's really not always about checking on the renter and how they're taking care of things. It's also about you checking on the property to make sure that it's adequate, that it's in good condition, and that the maintenance items are not being, neglected. Thank you. That's the word.
And part of that's for them, right? But also part of it's for you, because maybe you've got a little roof leak and they're just not worried about it. But you need to get on top of that. And so there's things that might get let go, and it's good to get inside the house, take a good look around, just make sure everything's being maintained as it needs to be. Even if it's not something that the renter caused, but it's something that you have to maintain. You're not going to know about it unless they tell you or you see it on the
No, I know, because I just had to do some work on the outside of the house for replacing some dry rot window sills.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't want to have a bigger problem on that, you know,
That's right.
at all. So, and I think, don't you think sometimes the bigger the houses are, the more there is to take care of?
Yeah, and the more risk.
More risk.
Especially if it's a big house and a nice house. Maybe it's got the really fancy wood floors and cabinetry and things that you do want to keep an eye on and make sure they're being maintained well.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about some of the things that people might leave out of lease agreements. You know, I get a lot of people who think that they can do these leases themselves and handle this themselves there, but they sometimes don't have adequate papers, or they go to the favorite, office supply place and get something.
Either they do the standard, office supply store lease, or some folks write it themselves and they outsmart themselves because they put a lot of stuff in the lease that isn't enforceable anyway. You've got to really know the law to be able to put together an adequate lease. But some of the things people will leave out, at some point you're going to want to re-rent that home, or maybe you're going to want to sell that home. Do you have something in your lease that allows you free access to the house during the last 90 days of the lease term, so that you can show the house? And if you don't have that, guess what's going to happen? you're going to be waiting until that home's empty and then coming in, and you're really going to be behind the eight ball, and you're definitely going to have a vacancy in that home. If you get something strong in your lease that has them keeping the home in showing condition, allowing you to access the home to show in that last 60 or 90 days, that's going to save you a ton of money and a vacancy risk.
I think that's absolutely essential there. What do you think about the tenant being required to maintain insurance, property insurance for themselves?
Yeah, well, and you want to make sure, first of all, that they understand that the homeowner's insurance policy doesn't cover them in any way, and a lot of renters don't necessarily understand that. So that could be something that happens on the property that turns out to be tenant negligent. That owner's policy isn't going to help them. So it's really important from a renter perspective, they have insurance. So yeah, I certainly would recommend that when you bring somebody in for their benefit and your own, that they have insurance.
And then, if as an owner, especially in this town, we have a lot of people that have been transported in and out, so to speak, associated with the military, that sort of thing there, and they may plan to be selling that home a little bit later on. How do they make sure that it stays in really great condition?
Yeah, and we kind of talked about the inspection piece. Some of it's screening, because a lot of the folks that I work with, Cheryl, they are going to sell their home, and that's their end goal, and they're building equity over time, and eventually that's going to be a home that they sell and get some money out of it. And it's going to turn out to be a great investment for them. So you got to inspect the home thoroughly, again, for how your renter's taking care of it, but also just normal maintenance. It's the house being painted when it's supposed to be painted, so you don't have siding issues and other things that can happen. That kind of ongoing maintenance, you really only become aware of if the renter brings it to your attention, or if you physically inspect it. You have to inspect the property.
Now, do you guys at your company, when you handle properties as a property management firm, do you go in and do like a checklist each time you do an inspection, or pictures, or a video, or how do you handle all this?
If it's occupied, we do a checklist of the property, and we'll do photos if we see a concern, then we'll photograph it. But what we do is a checklist for condition. Now, between renters, we're going to do the full ball of wax. We're going to do a checklist, we're going to do photos, and we're going to video the entire home, so that between every renter, and that's good for us anyway, because we can go back year to year and track the condition of that house, because again, our goal is to keep that in sale condition, so that down the road, however long that is, that house is ready to go.
That's really good there. I mean, I think that's a really important point there. There's a lot more that I think Andy and I could share with you about owning investment properties there, and how to take care of them, how to manage them, whether you're doing it yourself and you want a couple of pointers. Give us a call. Actually, Andy, give your number out. Tell everyone who they can call.
Yeah, you bet. You can reach AY Realty at 719-660-7458. And if you just have questions, no problem, or if you're ready to do some business, give us a call.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I want to help you guys too if you got some questions there. 719-321-7600. Be sure to check us out at coloradospringsbesthomes.com. Now, stay tuned for more from the show here, because we're going to be talking about how you find those homes for sale and get the best and most accurate data information available. I'll be right back with more on that.